Hello, and welcome to the Libri Labra Book Club. I am joined today by my husband, John, aka BookTube Hubby, and also Tom, who is a book club VIP member. If you ever want to join us on screen, you can do that by joining patreon.com/LibriLabra. And there's a bunch of other perks like behind the scenes stuff and voting on the books that we read and being part of a exclusive Facebook chat where we talk about some of the media that we're consuming. Today we're going to be talking about Piranesi by Susanna Clarke. This was my pick. We're going to talk a little bit like surface level, and then we're going to jump into spoilers. So if you have not read it and you don't want to be spoiled, definitely go read the book, come back, and then you can listen to our discussion. So this was my pick, and I was hearing a lot about this. It's also a book of the month book. But I had a few friends who had read it and they said it was very interesting. It was also short, so that was part of the reason why I picked it. I did already have it, but I was intrigued because it sounded like one of those stories where you don't really know what's going on until you kind of finish it. And so I was excited to read it because of that. But what were your initial thoughts?
I went in blind.
So you had like no idea at all?
Just the cover and just the fact that it had like the satyr looking character on the front. I was like, okay, so Greek mythology-ish.
That's what I was thinking but too. Nope. That's probably why like I bought it to begin with, because I was like, oh, Greek mythology-ish. But then I think isn't the satyr on the front supposed to be, well, Tom, initial thoughts.
I knew I had heard the word Piranesi before, but I could not remember where or when. But as I went through the book, and it's like, oh, okay, I get it now. So, but to say why requires spoilers. So.
Right.
We'll get there.
Yeah.
All right. So we're hopping into spoiler territory, and just to complete the thought, was that I think the satyr was supposed to be a nod to a character in The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe? Or is that like totally off?
I haven't read it. So.
You haven't read it either?
Mm-hmm. How dare you?
I'm surprised.
Get off this rush.
I'm surprised.
Or if I did, it was like a while, so
long ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I just finished reading a memoir that mentioned another one of C.S. Lewis's work. And so during our discussion, people were like, oh, you haven't read anything by him? And I was like, I haven't. I have a few things by him, but I haven't read anything by him. But I'm definitely interested in reading some of his stuff now. You're right there.
When did it, I mean, I had to check it. Why wouldn't you have just said Narnia?
I feel like they did mention Narnia in there at some point.
But I'm saying that the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe is part of that whole shebang, right?
No, but I think the first book is called The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
Right, I know. Okay.
And then Narnia is the place that they go.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, so that's what I thought. After reading the book, that's what I thought the guy on the cover was supposed to be, but I don't know. And then Piranesi is an Italian builder of labyrinths. Is that correct?
I knew him for, and to follow up my previous response, I had heard of him because Yo-Yo Ma played the Bach's second cello suite, and there was a video to it, and the video was all these imaginary prisons drawn by Piranesi. So.
Prisons.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the labyrinth was meant to be a prison to keep the Minotaur in, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Which we found out from having read Ariadne. If we recall that.
So, at what point would you say in the book that you start to kind of figure things out?
I know. For me, page 87. No,
wow, specifically. Okay. Yeah. I want to know why. What is this?
It's where I don't have the book in front of me, but I just remember that it's like, oh, this is what's going on. I forget who they introduced or how they introduced it, but it's just like, oh, we're finally getting more of the story now, sort of a thing. But I wish I could
Interesting.
remember why.
Well, let me see if I can see.
Oh yeah, you got the book. Where's page?
Yeah.
Where's page 87?
Page 87, yeah, it's right around there.
94.
Watch our pagination won't be the same.
It sounds like he was talking to.
Was it when
I
you talked
forget
to
the
the
guy's
prophet?
name. Yeah, the prophet, the guy that he was
Oh,
referring to. as the
sailors,
prophet.
or yeah, I forget what it's something sailor.
Lawrence
Yeah, Lawrence something.
Ossail.
Yeah, I think so.
Something. Yeah, it's one of those hyphenated names.
Yeah, but he doesn't realize that the prophet is Lawrence until a little bit later.
Right.
But yeah,
But yeah, that's one.
I felt like nobody could be trusted, and so like, at first he's trusting Ketterly through everything, right? Because that's the only person he knows is the other,
Right.
and then somebody else gets introduced who is the prophet, and he had all these horrible things to say about Ketterly. And I was like, well, why should we trust him?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And it seemed like he was kind of just as bad as Ketterly, with just a slight difference.
Mm-hmm.
And then Ketterly was saying, don't trust 16.
Yes.
So, Piranesi was just kind of in this world, living there for so long, so happy. So he just adapted. He adapted to.
He did.
I think what I didn't understand about the story was it seemed like there was mention of mental health for two different characters, right? And I don't think I understood what the messaging was about that.
I think I actually thought that he was in a psych ward at some point, and that he was just imagining everything. But
I did think that as well.
But for someone to have to be fastening themselves, drying out seaweed and doing all this with fish bones and things, and I'm like, that's a lot.
But am I thinking of that correctly? Did they say that John Ritter and Piranesi both had mental health issues?
Is that what it is? Is that why? I wonder if that's why they both seem to want to go back to the place instead of actually living in the other world.
They were both held prisoner by Ketterly. So
By Ketterly, or didn't Lawrence hold one of them prisoner?
well, it's unclear, but it could be one, could be the other. But in the end, it doesn't really matter.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like both of them were in cahoots anyway.
Okay, because I also wasn't sure if, because they were trying to describe how you get into. Did they give it a name? The other
house?
place? Yeah, the house, whatever.
Right.
How you get into the house. And I feel like there was a part where they were talking about, well, first you have to believe that you can.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So was that what they were trying to say about mental health? That you have to be able to kind of.
No, he explained at the end that it had nothing to do with belief. That it was just a place that he took people.
Okay.
He who?
Lawrence?
What's it? I can't remember his name now.
Where's the book?
The book is right here. The sales.
Yeah, it's something sales or sales
Sales,
something.
like that, yeah.
It's a hyphenated name, but I don't remember what it is.
Arn Sales.
Barn sales, yeah.
There was a lot about, like, they mentioned like multiple times that how he explained ideas come in and out of the house, or how it's everything is represented. And then he's like, all of his ideas are mine. was that supposed to be some sort of I know it was his ego talking.
I mean, they both sounded
But-
like narcissists, him and Ketterly. So I thought it was funny that they were like talking crap about each other because they seemed like the same person almost.
Mm-hmm.
The only difference was that like Ketterly was obsessed with the idea of the house granting him some kind of knowledge
or power, right?
instead of just accepting
That
what
the
it
house
was.
is just a thing.
Yeah.
It's just there. It's there for the beauty. Huh.
But I still feel like there was something that I was missing about the mental health thing. So I don't, unless it was like, now does everybody in the house, if you spend enough time there, they just forget the real world? They start to forget the real world? Was that
That's the implication, yes.
Okay. But because he kept telling Piranesi, you forget things. He kept saying you forget things. Was that part of his mental health?
Well, it's very possible, in my opinion anyway, that, you know, to get them into this world, they had to indoctrinate them, you know, brainwash them somehow. And say, okay, you're going to see this world. And say, do you see it? No, whack. And yeah, it's like, well, or something like that. And it's like, you know, until finally you believe in the ideas that you are given, and, you know, there you are. And because real life is so crappy that this is your retreat now from that. So.
I don't know, man. I don't know how I feel about filleting and cooking my own fish.
Yeah, but I think that's going on in his mind. I don't think he's actually doing it.
Okay, see, that's the thing. That was the thing that I was getting at earlier.
That's why imaginary prisons is important, I think.
Right.
I also didn't know what was up with the vitamins.
Yeah, they kept giving him multivitamins.
Like, are those meds? Like, like there's just
no. It's just
I feel
they could be. I mean, yeah.
Keep him alive, keep him the nutrients that he's not getting from the house,
right?
And the ham and cheese sandwiches that he's not getting from Ketterly.
I mean, I didn't think he was imagining the things that he was saying, like the things he was making, and what he was, you know, because the house was consistently being flooded. So why wouldn't there be lots of fish and things?
Right.
Yes, but if you're trained to believe that the house has water in it and that it floods, this is what you come up with. That's my point.
So, was it a mental prison or was it an actual, like, what is
it? It sure seems to me like it was a mental prison. No, it's just they you know, Iron Sails and Ketterly so dearly wanted to prove the existence of this other world. So, okay, we're going to make you guys see it now by whatever means are necessary. So it's a psychological experiment.
I don't know what to say that I didn't perceive it like that.
No, that's fine. And that's the beauty of the novel, because it's open to so many interpretations. Nobody's right or wrong here. It's just different ideas.
Like, I totally believed there was some portal world that they had access to.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, like, I forget what his name was.
Poor Josh Ritter or something? I can't
remember. Something like that. No, he was the first one that got kidnapped. Piranesi's real name. But we'll continue.
Matthew Sorensen.
Yeah. So, there was still this childlike wonder about him. And it seemed like 16 had that same childlike wonder, which is why they seemed so comfortable in this. I don't know. I just felt like there was something special about both of them.
Just the idea of believing that world exists, because it could be one thing. Because if you actually can't believe, or that's another reason why people would go mad.
Mm-hmm.
Right, but she seemed equally fascinated, and she was a cop. So, like, why would she be fascinated about a prison or a jail or like anything like that wasn't what was being described? You know, like, why would she? I feel like she would have fought harder to get him out of there. She would have been like, dude, this is prison.
Yeah, but he doesn't.
Well, they didn't see that way.
Yeah, exactly. You're pulling him from a space that is safe for him and that he knows. It's something that's totally unknown and possibly unsafe. So yeah.
I mean, I get how it was like a prison in the sense because there was no one else there and it was this labyrinth and there were so many rooms and so many halls and so many things. Like and I understand that his perspective of it was still possibly more than it was. But I don't know, with all the statues and like, you're saying the statues weren't there either?
Are you saying that they were?
Yes.
They had.
How big do you think this building is?
And they had reasoning as to why all the statues existed too, for the ideas flowing from one world to the other. And then that's interesting. An interesting way to have someone think that your ideas, that your beliefs, that everything came from the house, because the ideas that you brought with you were depicted by the statues that were around you.
He brought those images from the real world and then transformed them into his statues. Because at the end of the book, it says, he sees these people out in the real world. Oh, hey, he's the kid from here. He's, so who knows?
I mean, when I finished it, I felt like it was a book that I would have to reread. But now I feel
yeah, absolutely.
It's definitely.
Yeah, not right now, but yeah.
I just think it's the interesting part to me is that they named the character after the person who made the prison versus someone who's actually spent time in the prison. You know what I'm saying?
Not exactly, no.
The Piranesi, that name was
right.
from the labyrinth builder, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not from. Well, I guess
because Sorensen built his own world, yeah.
Right. Okay.
And because he was so awful in the real world, he retreated into his mind, into this. The house is beautiful and it gives me things, and that's how you survive, apparently, or how he survived.
An interesting perception.
Well, what about all the dead people and the biscuit box man?
You remember he was researching Orange Sales and to some extent Carolee, so he had an idea of these people in mind, I'm thinking, before he actually got in there. So it's like his ideas his ideas were pre-populated.
So what of the people of the alcove?
Who knows? I mean, as I said, it's open to interpretation.
Right.
What does it mean?
How much of this is open to interpretation?
Right. I mean, but like if Piranesi is like somewhat of an unreliable narrator, then you need like at least somebody who's reliable. And I feel like the most reliable person.
Oh no, you don't.
I feel like the most reliable person in this story was 16.
Yes, because she's the outsider. But she has, in order to gain access to his world, she has to take on the terms that he uses, and do you see the house? Oh yes, I see. Of course I see the house. So,
that's why she actually showed me the house.
Yeah,
she's like, I want to see. Show me.
Yeah, what his idea.
And he actually walked her through everything.
Yeah, and she said, "Can I take pictures?" And he said, it's great that she asked because she respects the house.
Right.
Now, whether he's actually walking, I think, is probably almost impossible because there's no building that big or that kind, except for, because what I think is the idea impression I got that he was being held in that town hall somewhere in one of the back rooms, because the town hall is ginormous, like they're trying to make this building out to be. And that's where he got his idea from.
Oh, well, why is it flooded every so often?
I don't know. But like he found a letter from Lawrence asking how to get from A to B. Like, and he provided instructions using the statues. I just feel like a lot of people were communicating with him on his terms, and
Yes.
I have a hard time believing it was all made up. Like,
Well, consider the fact that we don't exactly know what happened to get Sorensen into the world, or anybody else for that matter. My money's on hypnotism, even though it's not mentioned. Because, like, okay, look at this candle. I think that's what it was. And then you concentrate on that. And then, you're in this world. And, the hypnotist suggests the world to Sorensen, and this is what he builds based on it. Now, is it possible that the policewoman was put under the same way? Yes, to join him in this hypnotic dream, I guess, for like a better word.
So basically, we're talking almost Inception level, where we're
Yes.
moving around in his mind.
Correct. In my opinion, anyways.
Like him going in, him being put out, him actually going in willingly might have been the key to him making that world, and then everybody else being able to be a part of it.
Right. To access him, you have to access his world. So you have to be put under in the same way that he was to gain access to it.
but why is he the subject? Like, why is he the subject when it was like Lawrence who was obsessed with this other world thing anyway?
Well, in order to prove this other world exists, he
Right,
had
and gather data on it. Yep.
right. But he didn't have a willing subject until Matthew came along asking questions again.
Yeah.
So he found another willing subject, and he was, okay, well then.
Yeah, and Sorensen is willing in the sense that we're talking about, but
Right.
oh, do you want to go in? Yeah, I'll show you. And then haha, I got you now. So
Did you show you how to get in? He's just shouldn't show you how to get out.
right, exactly.
But that was Ketterly that did that.
Mm-hmm.
But Ketterly wasn't the mastermind from the beginning. It was Lawrence.
No, it was on sales.
Yeah,
Right.
and Ketterly was just one of his students.
Right.
Correct. But Ketterly ended up helping him eventually.
But whether the biscuit box man and all the other people whose bones he had collected or said he collected, those people were all missing, though.
Yes.
Right.
Which he would have known because he was researching that topic beforehand.
But where did they go if their bones aren't there? Why did they all disappear?
No, that was his mind's having a place for them.
Right, in his world.
That was their explanation. That was his mind's explanation of where they went.
Yep.
Who knows where they're actually buried or dealt with, or if they're actually in that world or not.
But if this was like more mental and like a psychological thing, then wouldn't the book have been classified as that versus like fantasy?
What is it classified as?
That's a good question. I'm gonna look that up.
I thought you knew. I thought that you were asking because you knew.
I mean,
Yeah,
I thought.
And it's labeled as fantasy as far as I'm aware. So
yeah, see, that's
all bets are off. Yeah.
Hold on.
This is why we have these conversations.
Yes.
I mean, the author in general, I feel like she's a fantasy author. Okay, so it's classified as fantasy, mystery, magical realism, mythology, science fiction, fantasy.
Take your pick. Yeah, whatever you want to see in it.
But I just feel like, wait, let me see, show all. Okay. Oh boy.
Oh.
No, that's what everybody else classified it as. I just feel like, why isn't psychological in there?
God, I couldn't tell you.
I guess I just don't want to believe it was that made up.
Because later on in the book, he, I wish I could remember his name. Was it Ritter?
Yeah.
Bruce Ritter, something like that.
Poor
Yeah,
Paul
poor
Ritter.
John,
Paul Ritter?
John Ritter?
But he makes a point of going. He said he goes to this particular flat and he actually rescues Ritter from the same fate that he did because he says that he doesn't know how to feed himself.
Well, he said because he what he said was wherever Ritter was living,
Right.
he brought him back to the house to see the house and hang out there. But he said, I can't leave you here because you don't know how to feed yourself.
Okay.
Right. So the problem with that was because before he died,
Who died?
Ketterly.
Yeah.
Before Ketterly died, Ketterly was when Ritter was in the world. They were feeding him. He said he found his food next to the Minotaur statue every day.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Okay.
So he can't feed himself because the food's not going to show up there anymore. That person just died.
Right.
Okay.
So Ritter lived there just through sheer ignorance, I guess. He didn't actually go and start making a life for himself in the place. He just stayed there and went mad. But with Matthew spent the time to get used to the place, to get to know it, to actually learn from it, to actually be an academic in the sense that what the other guys were looking for.
Right.
So they were like, well, then let him learn and teach us about the labyrinth.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to come back every few days to check on him.
But what would
And
he
he
be?
slowly went.
What would he be reporting? What would he be teaching if it was just all made up crap in his head?
That's what they're getting. They're getting that data. They're just trying to figure out where he's been, what he's done, what's in his head.
Mm-hmm.
If that's I mean, again, it's up to interpretations. And I'm saying this could be.
Yep.
We can look at this in a number of different ways.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I guess I would have to reread it before I forget it. Because if not, then it would be like rereading it again for the first time versus rereading
like
with
Matthew.
with another layer on top.
Mm-hmm.
Just don't get your notebooks wrong.
Who did that? Like, he didn't do that, did he? Somebody else, I feel like somebody else screwed him up.
It sounded like that they try to give him his own notebooks to, hey, write in these, show us, take your journals in these. But it was his old notebooks from before he started, like that's weird to me, but because I guess it's part of the story where it had to be plot armor or something.
And why did he lose track? I mean, do you think the whole, fifth day of the 10th month in the year the albatross visited the Southwest Hall, whatever?
Oh, so you know that. Well done. And this is an experiment in what is it? Brain chaining here. Yeah. So
but if he
implanted the idea. Anyway.
If he was so well able to keep track of it in those terms, why couldn't he just keep track of the regular date?
He did for a while, until he realized that he was taking time, because the new event was the exciting thing that happened that year. So he wrote that in as part of and then he was like, why am I keeping track of time two different ways? I'm just going to use this way, which is leaving the traditional numbered calendar that he started with.
Yes. Both of which are products of his own mind. One's equally as good as another in that sense.
I mean, because we had started by listening to the audiobook. Yes. And so hearing that over and over again, you're like, what is happening in this story? But once you recognize that it's a date and the days are just changing, and the month, the 9th month is September, whatever, right. The 10th month is whatever. So it stops being so confusing. So it just seemed like he was just doing the same thing but with more words.
Well, the point is, though, unfortunately, that method does not have any. Well, within itself, it does, but with other years, there's no
No,
inherent
right,
chronology.
yeah.
Because when was the year that the albatross appeared versus whatever else happened?
Right. So I assumed that was mostly just put in there by the author, just so we had no concept of time. So that the reader had no idea what year this was.
Or that calendar is a man-made thing, just like his world is. So is his notion of time, and he's measuring it one way, now he's measuring it another way. And as for his notebooks, I mean, is it possible that those are just his memories? And as as he thinks about this, he has now access to what happened before. It's once you crack his reality, and then you can see, oh well, there's 16 here. Okay, little crack there, and then where are they? And then that's what I interpret it. It's not necessarily a physical book; it's just his memories about his life before. But it's interesting to me how he has 3 separate personalities as a result of this. He has Matthew Sorensen, who's asleep in him. Then he has Piranesi while he's in the prison, and then has this new personality, which is neither of the other two. Now, it's like he knows them vaguely, but he's not either of them. He's something else now.
It's interesting because he actually does multiple times refer to Matthew in the third person as in this, like I'm not him, but he's me. I have his face.
Right.
So I'm just not the same person.
Right. Because of his ordeals.
But he also knew he wasn't Piranesi.
Right.
That's not his name.
Well, I know, that's what he kept saying. That's not my name.
But he also knows, again, it's like Piranesi is within him, but it's not him. He's something different from those other two. Like I was this person at this point in my life, and then I became this person this way. Now I'm something entirely different from the other two. I still remember them, but I'm not them.
What was the deal with 16 though? Because Matthew Sorensen met people who worked with her, who had a lot to say about her in terms of.
Oh, the cop he was talking to at the end.
Yeah.
Well, you get the impression that she was very well known for taking these impossible cases and solving them, because she just stuck to it and said, "I'm going to get her done."
Right, which is, I guess, why I was leaning on the belief that you have to believe, right? You have to believe something is possible in order for it to happen, or to make it happen.
Right.
So, whether it be going to another world and leaving a trail of some sort of, of pebbles to spell something out,
right,
or believing that you can actually be a part in going to whatever this person's mind is to communicate with them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's looking at it from both perspectives, if if that helps at all.
Right.
Well, I just kind of compare it to flying in your dreams.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's one of the hardest things to do, and so many people can't do it because you have to
know you're dreaming and believe that you can fly in your dream.
You have to believe that you can fly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that requires defying all logic.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I guess you have to know that you're dreaming, because if not, yeah.
He doesn't know he is.
Very poorly.
Yeah.
So maybe the nod to him having some sort of psychiatric, what was it? whether he had a mental health issue or not, or them specifying that he had one could have been a way to describe him having multiple personalities.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't think he had one when he went in, but he certainly did,
Right.
at the end, and that was by his experience.
I mean, they did say that in multiple ways, this thing or this one thing happening is going to drive you mad, or this other thing happening is going to drive you mad.
Right.
So it could have been all of those things or any of those things.
Right. But really, we were left with three distinct personalities. Because of his experiences there, I think.
Crazy.
I don't know. I feel like the author was trying to suggest that Matthew Sorensen and 16 had something. They shared something. Like some trait, some character trait, whether it's that childlike wonder, that's how they described it. And it's definitely more than me just imagining that, because even Ketterly wanted, obviously, 16 was trying to find and save Matthew Sorensen, but Ketterly says, I didn't tell you she was a woman because I was afraid you would fall in love with her or you would whatever. And I think it goes beyond just the fact that she was a woman. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like...
Well, if they've been keeping Matthew in such an isolated way to where it's only been two men or one other man that he's ever interacted with, they wouldn't want him interacting with her at all because of that reason, that it's that initial curiosity and or attraction will always be there.
And it's a crack in his reality.
Right.
That'll only get bigger.
Which is why he said, don't talk to her, it'll drive you mad.
This reminds me a lot of Plato. Again, I know I brought this up in another discussion, of Plato's allegory of the cave. Because, Ketterly is saying, oh, no, because the police officer wants to bring him out into the real world, but, Ketterly obviously wants him to stay back in the cave. So that's what he's saying, oh, yeah, don't side to her, she'll make you mad, sort of thing. And that's, with the statues as well, as being, their ideas, capital I, of these people, Platonic ideas. We could have, books in the world, but there's the idea of a book, and that's where apparently we are now in Piranesi. And, I just thought it was interesting that, it's, I guess, trying to show him, hey, look, what you're seeing is just shadows on the wall, or the shadows in your mind. And we're going to bring you back out into the real world.
But I don't want to do that.
Right, exactly. Because he's safe where he is. So. And I think to get access to his world, I mean, they have to be similar in that, were they equally susceptible to hypnotism, for example? Who knows? But the fact is that she can access his world. And in order to do that, she would have to be in physical proximity of her, to know who or what she is. So.
That's crazy, because you actually, even if she just visited a hospital room, stood in the door, turned around and left, that would be the explanation of why he smelled her perfume.
Yep.
Or that he was just doing what he was doing, and he was like, interesting. It's a whole different ways.
Yeah. How would he know that if he hadn't experienced it? I mean, he could be making it out because this is all in his mind, but that's a very random detail. Because
I don't know. I still like the other world aspect. That would specify why he's been missing, versus it's not like she's visiting him in a psychiatric ward or something.
Right. All those people disappeared.
Yeah.
they went bye-bye. So
They
like
went bye-bye.
so and their remains weren't found, so it would make sense that they were.
Unless he found them.
Who found them?
Matthew,
Yeah, but where did he find them?
in his mind. That was the only explanation he can come up with.
But the cop said that Ketterly was there and Ketterly was dead, and like
Kedley went missing. Yeah, okay. Yeah, that couldn't have happened all in his mind then, if that you explain it that way.
Mm-hmm. All could have happened in his mind. That's the thing. You know, where are you getting his thing? But was it possible that he struggled with Carolee and killed him? You know, he's saying in his mind that, oh, the flood took it, not me.
He watched it happen from a statue.
Yep.
So that'd have to be a better explanation for the flood then, if it happened in his mind. I want to know what that is. Because I don't know, this other world. I like the other world explanation.
that the other world exists.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? Like, and I know Tom hasn't read this, but
Okay.
and don't go into details because of spoilers reasons. But like, while I was reading this, I kept thinking of the magicians.
Oh yes. I did too.
So
Okay.
So, like, you know, I just feel like the way it was being told made me feel like the other world or that portal world was there and it existed. Like, it didn't feel to me like it was just in his mind. Because I definitely considered that. I was like, is he in an asylum?
That
Is
was
he in
my
a
first
jail?
thought going in this, is like that he was but the prison thing is that's
And I mean, like, think about it. Even if it was a portal world, if no one was there and it was that vast, that would be, for any human, that could be an isolating prison. You know, even though it's not actually technically a prison,
Right.
it could still be and feel like one. So I get that aspect of like
It's a did for
him
Ritter.
making, like, using a different perspective to look at the whole thing. Because it is indeed like a survival defense mechanism, right? It's to find a way to entertain yourself if you don't know how long you've been there or how
Stockholm
long you're
syndrome?
going to be there. Like, that to me is
No, not Stockholm Syndrome, because he doesn't.
That's
He
falling in
doesn't
love.
like.
Yeah.
Oh, I love you. Yeah.
That's implying that the house is the captor.
Well, I mean, he had part of that happening is the fact that he thought the guy was his friend.
Yep.
And I was like, if he's giving, like, it didn't, like, there were books, there were things, there were multivitamins, so they gave him multivitamins, and I'm like, wait, so if that's a thing, so we're not in some alternate universe.
Because they were mentioning the mental health, and then he was like, oh God, take my vitamins. We've seen so many movies where, like, people think they're taking something, whether it's The Giver or Equilibrium or...
I see. So they're keeping them, you said they're keeping them on drugs.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Which is what I thought the vitamins were. I didn't think they were actually vitamins. I thought they were, like, medicating him. Oh, I don't know about hallucinations. I just thought they were medicating him for a reason.
But whether it's to medicate him, well, again, you have the same thing. Either he was there in his mind and the medications were keeping him hallucinating everything, or they were medicating him in this other world to keep him from remembering things.
Or he had mental health issues and was on medication prior, so they were keeping him on them, so
keeping them medicated
so that he was
okay?
lucid, so he could still document things. I don't know.
Crazy. Susanna Clarke, want to come talk?
Well, this is her first book in like 16 years. So.
What?
Oh, yeah.
There was another one that I almost bought at Barnes & Noble the other day. It was real, but it was very big.
Yeah.
It was like something strange, Dr. Strange, or
and Mr. Clark. So, like,
something.
I know.
Yeah.
That was the book she published before this, which was like 16 years ago.
Hi, Chloe.
I have to use the restroom. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'll be back.
Okay. So yeah, I'm gonna have to reread this.
Yes.
And let's see, how many pages was it? It wasn't that long. It's like 235. Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell.
No, yeah.
And like, I don't know anything about that. I just heard it was really good. But I am very much intimidated by large books like that, especially when they're fantasy, which I believe it is. But I'm not sure what else to say.
Well, I mean, the first 80-some pages is like, okay, where's this going? Sort of thing. And then when they introduce on sales, it's like, aha, now we're getting somewhere.
I mean, yeah, when they start talking about Lawrence, I feel like they burst the bubble of whatever else was previously going on, because now it brings the real world back into the story.
This reality, yes, whether it's real or real in his mind, sort of a thing.
What else?
What? I just got that reading. What else?
What else? What else?
But as for the the remains, he would have known they were missing. So in his mind is going, oh, I know, here they are.
But why would he feel indebted to them? Because he was very respectful of those remains, whether they were in his head or not. He was very specific. Like,
that was his religion. He mentioned that a little. He goes, "Oh, I'm the only one that does something like this. Maybe I'm the only one that has any religious beliefs." And he was actually literally he was feeding the dead. He was keeping them safe. I don't know. I don't know if that's belonging to Matthew.
Safe. He was like keeping them organized. If he was tying up their bones, little bones here, big bones there, keeping them grouped and together.
But I think that stems from the last line in the book. The beauty of the house is immeasurable, its kindness infinite, and that's what he is showing to those people, who were disappeared by Ketterly or whichever one happened to do it. It's like he's showing proper respect. So
interesting.
Who is he? But did he not ask like one of the other cops about the biscuit box?
The biscuit box was on Lawrence's desk before everything had happened. He said he remembered seeing the biscuit box, but he said apparently he doesn't know anything about the man in the biscuit box.
Wait, who said that? Like, who said the biscuit box was on Lawrence's desk?
Lawrence did. He's like, oh, I remember that biscuit box. It was a reminiscent thing when he was talking to Piranesi the first time you come across him. Because Piranesi was like, but you're 16. He goes, no, I'm not.
Right.
Where do you get 16 from? And he goes, he actually explains to him all these other people. Oh. So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I just thought of this. I mean, let's take another reality. This to me seems similar. The Wizard of Oz.
It's been a while since I've Wizard of Oz.
Yes, but the world of Oz is populated by people that she knows. Dorothy knows from the
Right.
real world.
Right.
That's what I think. I think they share the same relationship that Piranesi does to his world.
Well, I mean, but from using the Wizard of Oz perspective, was she not like unconscious, or like, wasn't it a dream or something?
Mm-hmm. It's all in her mind,
She was okay.
much like Piranesi. But it's as real to whatever Piranesi is now that it is to Dorothy.
It could also be used as an explanation to the fact that they only know of a certain few of people that went missing, but the people of the alcove are all people that Lawrence on Sales has kidnapped that they don't know about.
Or held was it to his beliefs, I guess.
Oh, his cultists.
Yes,
his students. That's right. Huh. That's an interesting way to look at it too.
I think everything, like, well, except for the ocean, I can't. But most of it, it's in the real world, and that's what populate. That's what he has. Those are the sets of ideas that he has to use to populate his world. In and among what he was suggested by Caroline. It's a combination of the two. I mean, Carolee could have, who knows, but Carolee could have been responsible for the halls, the statues, and the ocean. And then Matthew Sorensen, here's the bones, and here's the albatross, and here's,
What did the albatross signify? Outside of it changing how he...
I read a review that was talking about how all the statues meant something specific, and I feel like I missed all of that. Like, to me, the statues had no meaning. Not because the story was saying that, but because I just didn't identify. Like he was saying, this statue looks like this, but I wasn't connecting it to anything.
Why not?
Because it didn't connect to anything in my brain.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I do remember him saying something like once he was not in the house and seeing people that he linked back to a statue or whatever, but
yeah,
maybe I was looking for more meaning than there was.
Well, if he's seeing human statues, he would have had to have populated from the humans that he's seen.
Right.
So much like the Wizard of Oz. Oh, right. The witches are, onto whatever. So.
Yeah. I'm going to reread it.
Yeah. That's where we're at. Well, I guess we could, I don't know if I have anything else to say, so I could probably do...
They can do final thoughts. I'm actually not feeling well.
I'm sorry. All right. So yeah, my final thoughts are I enjoyed it. I thought it was interesting. Mm-hmm. I would definitely check out more of Susanna Clarke's work. It's definitely worth a reread. And maybe I'll annotate it the second time around just to have my own notes that I can refer back to. I'm hoping to find some more nuggets of meaning interwoven in there outside of just catching the things that I've missed. But I think it's a good story considering how short it is.
I'll definitely give it a reread.
I would probably give it... What would I give it? I think for now I would give it 4 stars, and I guess we'll see where I land on reread. That's kind of how I feel. How about you?
I think 4 stars is where I'm going to land too. It definitely deserves a reread. I might give it the 5th star just because.
I mean, you could. You're entitled. You can do that.
Yeah, because it's not only the reading experiences. Does the book linger with you after you've read it?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, that's definitely.
But I need like a little bit of time to figure that out. like,
Mhm.
like how long will I be thinking about
If that's
it?
the case, then it's done its job. So.
How about you, Tom?
I will go with the disclaimer that Goodreads reviews are indication of how much you like the book, not of the book's quality.
Right, that's true.
I gave it a 4, but only because I don't think I got all of I could out of it. But there's, it's so open to interpretation. I don't think there's any like, okay, here it is. Here's the story, and it's
Right.
like whatever you make of it. So,
Right.
very
I
good.
like that.
So 4 stars.
All right,
I would be delighted to read anything else by her because that was good.
All right, so 4 stars all around from us. And for the month of June, we are reading the 3rd Robin Hobb book in the trilogy of
Farseer.
The
the Farseer trilogy. And so, what is the title of the book?
Oh, I was wondering if
Is
you
it
were like to say it.
Assassin's Quest?
I believe it's Assassin's Quest. Yes.
Okay, all right. So that is what we're reading for June, and we'll be discussing that later in June, probably early July, something like that. So if you're still here, thank you for being here. Thank you for popping in, saying hi, if that's what you did as well. And we'll catch you on the next one. So thanks.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.